I don't know how to be a wife.
Then just lie down and love me.
She pressed her trembling hands against the bullet wound in his chest, blood seeping hot between her fingers.
It is a bond
3 months ago, she didn't know his name. Now she was watching him bleed out in the Wyoming dirt for a secret that wasn't his to carry. "Don't you leave me, Eli McCrae," she choked out. "Not after teaching me what staying means." His hand found hers slick with blood.
Not my grief to carry.
"Now you know," he whispered, "what it means to be a wife." Subscribe now.
Let me.
Follow this to the end. Comment your city. Let me see how far love and vengeance can travel.
You'll forget how to walk.
Laya Burn had 3 rules for survival.
Move in, she's
Never
reloading.
trust a lawman. Never say your real name twice. And never let a man see you cry. She shattered the 3rd rule the night she married Eli McCrae.
Then just lie
No
down.
flowers, no family. Just a circuit preacher reeking of whiskey and 2 witnesses paid to forget faces. The ceremony lasted 4 minutes. Eli's vows came out like gravel, low steady. Laya's voice barely made it past her throat. "You may kiss the bride." Eli looked at her, nodded once, walked out. That was the beginning. The cabin sat 3 miles outside Bitter Creek, Wyoming, where the plains stretched so wide you could watch your future coming for days. People came here to vanish. Laya intended to do exactly that. She stood in the doorway that first night, gripping a canvas bag, 2 dresses, her mother's Bible, and a knife pulled from a dead man's belt. The cabin smelled like old leather and smoke. 1 lantern flickered. Eli stood at the stove, stirring something in a dented pot. "Room in the back," he said without turning. "Door locks from inside. Won't come near it unless you ask." Laya's throat tightened. "Why'd you marry me?" Eli set the spoon down, turned slow. His face was all hard lines and sun-damaged eyes gray as storm clouds. Not cruel, though, just tired. "You needed a name that wasn't yours," he said. "I needed a reason to keep breathing." She didn't understand. Not yet. "I don't know how to be a wife." He studied her. Long enough she almost looked away. "Then just lie down and love me." Her breath caught. He turned back to the stove. "Not like that. I mean, stay. Don't run. That's all." Love meant presence, not possession. "I'll try," she whispered. Good enough. The stew was venison and potatoes thick with salt. They ate in silence. Wind rattled shutters. A coyote howled somewhere in the dark. When she finished, Eli washed bowls in the basin water sloshing against tin, his knuckles white with old scars. "You can ask," he said. "Everyone does." "Ask what?" "How my wife died." Laya set her spoon down careful. "Won't." He paused, glanced back. "Why not?" "Not my grief to carry." Something shifted in his face, almost a smile. "You're different." "From who?" "Everyone." That night she locked herself in the back room and cried until her ribs screamed. Not because she feared Eli, because she didn't. And that was worse. 3 months earlier, Laya watched her father die. Reverend Daniel Burn wasn't just a preacher, he was a man who couldn't look away from evil. In Kansas, he'd uncovered a trafficking ring native girls and orphans sold to brothels and work camps across the territories. He'd collected names, receipts, dates. He was going to expose them all. They killed him in his own church. Laya hid in the choir loft, clutching his journal, watching Grady Kane deputy with a badge and a blade lean over her father's body. "Shoulda kept your mouth shut, preacher." Then Kane looked up, saw her. She ran. For weeks she moved like smoke through Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska, cut her hair, burned her dresses, stole boys' clothes and a horse, became no one. But Grady Kane was patient. When she reached Wyoming, she heard his name in a saloon. He was asking about a girl, preacher's daughter, dark hair, scar on her left hand. That's when Eli walked over. "You need a husband." I need to disappear. Same thing. She didn't trust him, but options had run dry. Why help me? He looked straight through her. Because I know what it's like to run from ghosts. 2 days later, they married. The first week crawled by strange and quiet. Eli woke before dawn, worked past dusk, fences, cattlewood. He moved through the world like a man who expected nothing from it. Laya stayed inside, mostly watching through windows. She cooked when she could, mended shirts, swept floors. They barely spoke. Day 8, everything shifted. She was hauling water from the well. Bucket heavier than expected. She stumbled. Water splashed into dirt. She cursed, then froze. Eli stood behind her. Let me. I can do it. I know. Don't have to, though. He took the bucket, filled it, carried it inside without another word. That night he made her sit while he cooked. You've been doing too much. I'm supposed to be your wife. You're supposed to be alive, that's all. She stared at him. Why do you care? He set a plate down, beans and cornbread, sat across from her, arms folded. My wife's name was Anna. She died in childbirth. Baby didn't make it either. Laya's chest clenched. Eli, not telling you for pity, telling you so you understand. Didn't marry you to replace her. Married you because I'm done watching people die. His voice stayed steady, but his hands shook on the table. Laya reached across, covered his hand with hers. I won't die. Can't promise that. Neither can you. He looked at her then. Really looked. She saw past the walls, saw grief, exhaustion, something fragile he was desperate to protect. Stay, he whispered. I will. 2 weeks in, Laya woke to gunfire. She bolted upright, heart slamming, grabbed the knife, ran barefoot into the main room. Eli stood on the porch, rifle raised, staring into black. What? Quiet. She froze, listened. Wind through dry grass, cattle shifting nervous in the pen. Then she heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. Eli cocked the rifle. Show yourself, or I'll drop you where you stand. Silence stretched. Then a voice drifted from the dark, low, amused. Easy, McCrae, just passing through. A man stepped into the lantern light. Tall, lean. Face she didn't recognize, but his eyes cold and calculating. She knew that look. Predator sizing up prey. Don't recall inviting you, Eli said. The man smiled. Heard you got yourself a new wife. Thought I'd pay respects. You've paid them. Now leave. The stranger's eyes slid to Laya, lingered. Pretty thing. Where'd you find her? Eli stepped between them. Leave. Now. The man raised his hand, still smiling. No offense meant. He backed into the shadows. See you around, McCrae. When the hoofbeats faded, Eli finally lowered the rifle. Laya's hands were shaking. Who was that trouble? He turned to her. You recognize him? No. Should I? Hope not. He bolted the door. But if he comes back, you shoot first. Understand? She nodded, throat tight. That night she didn't sleep. Danger wasn't just behind her. It was circling. Weeks bled into each other. Seasons started turning. Laya learned the ranch's rhythms, the way cattle moved before storms, how the wind changed direction at dawn. She learned Eli liked his coffee black and his silence uninterrupted, that he hummed old hymns when he thought no one listened. And she learned kindness didn't need volume. One morning, she woke to find her shoes mended. She hadn't asked, hadn't mentioned they were falling apart. But Eli noticed. Another night she stayed up late reading her father's journal. When she finally went to bed, a quilt sat folded by her door. Smelled like cedar and wool. Didn't have to, she said next morning. Wanted to. The silence between them stopped feeling like a wall. Started feeling like language. A glance. A hand on a shoulder. Shared coffee at dawn. Laya realized something terrifying. She was falling in love with him. But peace never holds. Tuesday morning, Laya rode into town for supplies. Felt the stares immediately. Women whispered. Men looked at her like something diseased. At the general store, Mrs. Hollis, sharp-faced, sharp-tongued, refused service. "Don't sell to women of ill repute." Laya's blood iced. "Excuse me. Everyone knows you're not a real wife, just some stray warming Eli's bed for a roof." The words hit like fists. Before Laya could respond, a voice cut through the store like a blade. "Say that again." Eli stood in the doorway, face calm, eyes dead. Mrs. Hollis paled. "Mr. McCrae, I didn't—" "Say it again." The store went silent. Eli walked forward slow, stopped at the counter, leaned close. "You speak her name that way again, you'll forget how to walk. We clear." Mrs. Hollis stumbled back. Eli grabbed supplies, dropped coins on the counter, took Laya's arm. "Come on." Outside, Laya's hands shook. "Didn't have to." "Yes, I did." "They'll talk." "Let them." She looked up at him, jaw tight, grip gentle. "Why?" she whispered. "Why defend me?" He stopped, turned to face her full. "Because you're my wife. That means something." Her throat burned. "Thank you." He nodded and smiled. First time since they'd met. That afternoon, a rider came. Laya was hanging laundry when she saw him, distant silhouette on the ridge. Just sitting, watching. Her stomach dropped. She ran inside. "Eli." He was at the table cleaning his rifle. Looked up at her tone. "What?" "Someone's watching the house." He stood fast, grabbed the rifle, moved to the window. The rider was gone. "You sure?" "I saw him." Eli's jaw worked. What'd he look like? Too far. But he just sat there, watching. Eli set the rifle by the door, checked his revolver. "Stay inside tonight. Don't open the door for anyone but me." "What's happening?" "Don't know yet. But I'm gonna find out." He rode out an hour later. Didn't come back until after dark. When he walked in, his face was stone. Found tracks, 3 riders, circling the property. Laya's breath caught. "Who?" "Don't know, but they're looking for something." His eyes met hers. "Or someone." She sank into a chair. "They found me." "Not yet, they haven't." He knelt in front of her, took her hands. "Listen to me. Whatever's coming, we face it together. Understand?" She nodded, eyes burning. "I won't let them take you," he said. "You don't even know me. I know enough." That night they sat on the porch, stars thick overhead, crickets singing in grass. Laya wrapped her shawl tight, watched the black horizon. "You ever think about leaving?" she asked. "Every day." She looked at him, startled. "Not because I want to," he said. "Because I wonder if staying's enough." "It is. For me it is." He turned to her, searched her eyes. "Then I'll stay." She smiled. First real smile in months. But the horizon stayed dark, and in that darkness something moved. 3 days later, Laya went to town alone. Eli had business at a neighboring ranch. She promised to be careful. In and out. She was loading supplies into the wagon when she felt eyes on her back. She turned. A man leaned against the saloon across the street. Tall, clean-shaven, badge on his chest. Her heart stopped. Grady Kane. He smiled, tipped his hat. Slow, deliberate. She couldn't breathe, couldn't move. He pushed off the wall, started walking toward her. Laya grabbed the reins, climbed onto the wagon, hands shaking so bad she almost dropped them. "Ma'am," Kane called. "Got a minute?" She snapped the reins. The horse lurched forward. "Ma'am." She didn't look back, drove hard, dust kicking up behind her. When she reached the cabin, she nearly fell off the wagon, ran inside, slammed the door, bolted it. Eli wasn't home yet. She sank to the floor, shaking. He'd found her. Tend. Eli came home an hour later, took one look at her face, and knew. What happened? Grady Kane. Her voice cracked. He's here. He's the new deputy. Eli went still. You sure? I'd know that face anywhere. He paced, ran a hand through his hair. All right. We leave, tonight. Head to Montana. I got friends. No. He stopped. What? I run, they'll just find another girl. She stood, legs shaking but voice steady. My father died trying to stop them. I won't let that be for nothing. Laya. There's a military court at Fort Laramie. I testify. I have his journal. Names, dates, everything. They'll kill you before you get there. Then you make sure I get there. Eli stared at her. Something like pride flickered in his eyes. You're sure? I'm done running. He nodded slow. Then we ride at dawn. Yeah. That night, Laya couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching shadows. Eli sat across from her, rifle in his lap. Tell me about Anna, she said quietly. He looked at her, surprised. Please. He was quiet a long time. Then, she was good. Better than me. She saw things in people nobody else did. Saw something in me worth saving. He paused. When she died, I thought I died too. Spent 2 years walking around like a ghost. What changed? You. He met her eyes. You reminded me what it feels like to protect something. Laya's throat tightened. I'm scared. Me too. What if? No, what ifs? He reached across, took her hand. We get you to Fort Laramie. You testify. We come home. Home, she repeated softly. Yeah. He squeezed her hand. Home. Dawn broke cold and sharp. They loaded the wagon. Eli strapped on his revolver rifle, a shotgun. Extra ammunition. Laya wore boy's clothes hat pulled low, tucked her father's journal inside her coat. Ready? Eli asked. She looked back at the cabin, their cabin, the place where she'd learned what safety felt like. Yeah, she whispered. I'm ready. They climbed onto the wagon. Eli snapped the reins. As they rolled past the ridge, Laya saw him. Grady Kane, on horseback, watching them leave. He didn't follow, just sat there, smiling, because he knew where they were going, and he'd be waiting. The wagon rattled over frozen ground, each jolt sending pain through Laya's spine. They'd been riding for 6 hours straight, stopping only twice to water the horses. The November wind cut through her coat like knives. Eli hadn't spoken since they left Bitter Creek, his eyes fixed on the horizon, rifle propped between his knees. Laya kept glancing back. The road behind them stayed empty, but that didn't mean anything. Grady Kane wasn't the type to rush. He'd let them run, let them think they had a chance. Then he'd close the trap. How far to the fort? She asked. 3 days if the weather holds, 5 if it doesn't. You think he's following? I know he is. She pulled her coat tighter. Then why let us leave? Eli's jaw worked. Because he wants to see where you're going, who you talk to. He's not just after you anymore. He wants everyone connected to that journal. Her stomach dropped. I've put you in danger. I put myself here. He glanced at her. No regrets. You might have some before this is over. Probably. He almost smiled. But I'll still be here. The road stretched ahead, endless and white. Snow had started falling an hour ago, light flakes that stuck to everything. By nightfall, they'd need shelter or they'd freeze. There's a trading post about 10 miles north. Eli said, reading her thoughts. We'll stop there. Get warm. Leave before dawn. What if Kane's waiting? Then I shoot him. She looked at him sharp. He wasn't joking. Eli, he killed your father. He's hunting you. You think I'm letting him walk away? Killing a lawman will get you hanged. Only if they catch me. This isn't your fight. He pulled the wagon to a stop, turned to face her full. His eyes were steel. The second I married you, it became my fight. You don't get to carry this alone anymore. Understand? Her throat burned. She nodded. He snapped the reins. The wagon lurched forward. They rode in silence after that, but it wasn't the same silence as before. This one had weight, promise. He'd just declared war for her, and she knew he meant every word. The trading post appeared through the snow like a ghost, low building smoke rising from the chimney, 3 horses tied outside. Eli slowed the wagon, eyes scanning. Something wrong? Laya asked. Maybe. Stay close. They climbed down. Eli kept his hand near his revolver as they walked inside. The warmth hit them immediately, along with the smell of coffee and tobacco. 3 men sat at a table near the fire playing cards. They looked up when the door opened. The oldest, one gray-beard, weathered face nodded. Evening. Evening, Eli replied. Looking for a hot meal and a place to sleep. Got both. $2. Eli paid. The man gestured to a table. Wife can warm up by the fire. Stew's on the stove. They sat. Laya held her hands to the flames, feeling returning to her fingers. The card players went back to their game, but she felt their eyes. Assessing. Measuring. One of them, younger, mean-looking, kept staring at her. You got a problem? Eli asked quietly. The man smiled. Just admiring the view. Admire something else. Free country. Not that free. The tension stretched. The old man set his cards down. Jake, leave it. Jake's smile widened. Just being friendly. Be friendly somewhere else. Jake stood slow, walked over, stopped in front of their table. You know what I think? I think I've seen her before. Laya's blood turned to ice. You're mistaken, Eli said. Nah, I'm good with faces. There's a bounty out. Girl from Kansas, preacher's daughter. They say she killed a deputy. They're wrong, Laya said, voice steady despite her racing heart. Maybe, but bounty's still good, $500. Eli stood. You're not collecting. Jake's hand dropped to his gun. That's so. The room went silent. The old man stood too. Jake, this ain't worth it. $500 says it is. You draw that gun, Eli said quietly. You better kill me with the first shot, because you won't get a second. Jake hesitated, looked at Eli's eyes. Whatever he saw there made him reconsider. Ain't worth the trouble, he muttered. Turned and walked back to the table. Eli didn't sit. We're leaving. You paid for the night, the old man started. Keep it. Eli took Laya's arm. Come on. Outside, the snow was falling harder. Eli helped her onto the wagon, then climbed up and drove them away fast. They didn't stop until the trading post disappeared behind them. Where are we going? Laya asked. Anywhere but here. We'll freeze. Maybe, but we'll be alive. They found shelter in a shallow cave 2 miles off the road, just deep enough to block the wind. Eli built a small fire while Laya spread out their bedrolls. They had jerky and hardtack, not much else. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For all of this. You could have had a quiet life. Eli poked the fire. Had a quiet life. Nearly killed me. What do you mean? He was quiet a long time. Then, after Anna died, I stopped living. Just went through motions. Wake up, work, sleep. Didn't talk to anyone. Didn't care about anything. 2 years of that. He looked at her. You reminded me what it feels like to be alive. even if it's dangerous, even if it hurts. Hurts is a guarantee at this point. I'll take it. She moved closer. Why? Why risk everything? Because you're worth it. The words hit her like a blow. She'd never been worth anything to anyone. Her father loved her, but he'd loved his mission more. Her mother died when she was young. After that, it was just survival. But Eli looked at her like she was something precious. I don't deserve you, she whispered. Don't deserve you either. So we're even. She smiled despite everything. He smiled back. For a moment in that tiny cave with snow falling outside and danger closing in, they were just two people who'd found each other in the dark. Then Eli's expression shifted. He held up a hand. Quiet. She heard it. Hoofbeats. Multiple horses. Eli grabbed his rifle, moved to the cave entrance, peered out. How many? Laya whispered. 3. Could be nothing. Or it could be Cain. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. The hoofbeats stopped. Voices drifted through the snow, low searching. Laya's hand found the knife in her boot. Fan out, a voice called. They're close. That voice. She knew that voice. Grady Cain. Eli's finger moved to the trigger. Laya put her hand on his arm, shook her head. If he fired, they'd be surrounded. They needed to wait. The voices grew closer, footsteps crunching through snow. Check that cave! Laya's heart hammered. Eli aimed at the entrance. A shadow appeared, dark coat, badge glinting. Then a shout from the road. Found their wagon! The shadow paused. Where? Half-mile south. The footsteps retreated. The voices faded. Hoofbeats again moving away. Eli lowered the rifle, let out a breath. They'll find the wagon empty, Laya said. Then they'll come back. I know. We move now. They packed fast, left the fire burning to buy time, moved deeper into the hills away from the road. The snow was thick now, covering their tracks, which was good, but it also slowed them down. By midnight, they were both exhausted. Eli's leg was bothering him, old injury from the war, he'd said once. Laya could see him limping. We need to rest, she said. Can't. Not yet. Eli, you can barely walk. I can walk fine. You're limping. I'm fine. She stopped. I won't let you kill yourself for me. That's not your choice. Yes, it is. She grabbed his arm. We rest. 2 hours. Then we keep moving. He wanted to argue. She could see it, but his leg gave out and he caught himself against a tree. Fine, he muttered. 2 hours. They found an overhang, not quite a cave, but enough. Laya made him sit while she checked his leg. Old scar badly healed, swollen now from the cold and the walking. You should have told me, she said. Would it have changed anything? No. But I could have helped. You are helping. You're here. She looked up at him. His face was drawn, exhausted, but his eyes were steady. I meant what I said earlier, he told her. You're worth it, all of it. She leaned forward, kissed his forehead. Get some sleep. You too. One of us needs to keep watch. Laya, sleep Eli. He wanted to argue more, but exhaustion won. His eyes closed. Within minutes, his breathing deepened. Laya sat with the rifle across her lap, watching the dark. Snow fell silent around them. Somewhere out there, Grady Cain was hunting, and he wouldn't stop until one of them was dead. She thought about her father, about the night he died. He'd told her once, sometimes the only way to stop evil is to stand in its way and refuse to move. She'd been running for 3 months, hiding, surviving. She was done running. Dawn came gray and cold. Eli woke with a start, reaching for his gun. Easy, Laya said. Just me. He relaxed. You didn't sleep. Someone had to watch. Stubborn woman. You knew that when you married me. He almost smiled. Yeah, I did. They ate the last of the jerky. Eli tested his leg still bad, but he could walk. They moved slower now, staying off the road, using the hills for cover. By noon they reached a river. Ice covered the edges, but the center still ran fast and dark. We cross here, Eli said. Lose our trail in the water. It's freezing. I know, but it's our best shot. They stripped off their boots, rolled up their pants. The water hit like knives. Laya gasped. Eli grabbed her arm, steadying her. They waded across rocks slippery under their feet. By the time they reached the other side, both were shaking. Fire, Eli said through chattering teeth. Now. They found a copse of trees. Eli built another fire while Laya wrung out their clothes. They huddled close to the flames, waiting for feeling to return. How much farther? She asked. Day and a half, maybe less. Think we'll make it? We will. You can't know that. I can. He looked at her. Because I won't let anything else happen. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But she'd seen what Grady Kane could do, and she knew they were running out of time. That night they made camp in a dry creek bed. No fire this time, too risky. They huddled together for warmth, sharing blankets. Laya pressed against Eli's side, listening to his heartbeat. Tell me something good, she whispered. Something from before. Before what? Before everything went to hell. He was quiet. Then, Anna used to sing. Not well, mind you. But she'd sing while she cooked. Old hymns mostly. Drove me crazy at first. But after she was gone, his voice trailed off. I'd give anything to hear her off-key singing again. I'm sorry. Don't be. She'd like you, I think. She always said I needed someone stubborn enough to put up with me. Laya smiled against his chest. She sounds wonderful. She was. He paused. But so are you. So are. She looked up. His face was close, his breath warm on her cheek. Eli. He kissed her, soft, gentle, nothing demanding, just presence. When he pulled back, his eyes searched hers. Too much, he asked. No. She kissed him back. Not enough. They stayed like that, wrapped in blankets and each other, while the stars wheeled overhead. For a few hours, they forgot about Grady Kane. Forgot about danger. They were just two people who'd found something rare and precious in a world full of darkness. But dawn always comes. The shot rang out as they were packing up. Eli went down hard. Laya screamed, dropped to his side. Blood bloomed across his shoulder. Go, he gasped. Run. No. Laya. Another shot. Dirt kicked up beside them. She grabbed his arm, hauled him behind a boulder. His face was white, twisted with pain. She grabbed the rifle, looked over the rock. 3 riders coming down the creek bed. Grady Kane in front, smiling that terrible smile. Give it up, girl, he called. You're done running. Laya aimed, fired, missed. Kane laughed. That the best you got? Eli grabbed her arm. The journal. Get it to the fort. I'm not leaving you. You have to. No. She fired again. This time, one of the riders jerked, fell from his horse. Kane's smile vanished. Kill them both. Bullets ricocheted off the rock. Laya ducked, reloaded. Eli was trying to reach his revolver, but his arm wouldn't work. How many rounds? He asked through gritted teeth. 3. Make them count. She looked at him, blood soaking his shirt, face gray, but his eyes still fierce. I love you, she said. He blinked. What? I love you, Eli McCrae, and I'm not letting you die here. She stood, aimed, fired all 3 rounds in quick succession. One caught Kane's horse. It screamed, went down. Kane rolled clear, came up cursing. The last rider turned and fled. Cain leveled his gun at her. Then a rifle cracked from the ridge above. Cain spun. Blood sprayed from his leg. He collapsed. Laya stared. What the hell? A figure appeared on the ridge. Dark skin, long hair, rifle in hand. "You Eli McCrae," the man called. Eli's eyes widened. "Neshoba, owe you a debt, McCrae. Figured today's as good as any to pay it." The man Neshoba descended quick. He was Comanche, maybe 30, with eyes that missed nothing. He looked at Eli's shoulder, then at Grady Cain writhing in the dirt. "You want him dead?" Neshoba asked. "No," Laya said quickly. "I need him alive, for trial." Neshoba shrugged. "Your choice." He tied Cain's hands with rope rough and tight. Cain cursed the whole time. Then Neshoba turned to Eli. "Can you ride?" "Have to." "Then we ride. My village is close. We fix him there." "The fort?" Laya started. "Fort can wait. He dies, you'll have bigger problems." She looked at Eli. He was fading fast. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Neshoba lifted Eli like he weighed nothing. They had 2 horses, now Cain's, and the one whose rider fled. Neshoba put Eli on one Laya behind him to hold him steady. He threw Cain over the other like a sack of grain. They rode hard. Laya held Eli upright, her arms around his waist, feeling his heartbeat growing weaker. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Please, stay with me." He mumbled something she couldn't hear. "Eli said," he coughed. "Said you're worth it." Tears burned her eyes. "Don't you dare!" "Not planning to." The Comanche village appeared through the trees, maybe 20 lodges arranged in a circle. People came out staring. Neshoba called out in his language and several moved to help. They carried Eli into a lodge. An old woman, face like carved wood, examined his shoulder, then barked orders. Women brought water herbs cloth. Laya knelt beside him, took his hand. "You're going to be fine," she said. "Lying doesn't suit you." "I'm not lying." The old woman pushed her aside, started cleaning the wound. Eli's back arched, a groan escaping. Laya grabbed his other hand. "Look at me," she said. "Just look at me." His eyes found hers. She held them. "Tell me about Montana," she said. "Where we're going to live." Laya. "Tell me." He swallowed. "Mountains, fresh water, land, good for cattle." "What else?" "Cabin, big enough for a family." "A family?" "Thought, maybe." He grimaced as the old woman probed the wound. "Maybe you'd want kids someday." Her throat closed. "I'd want that." "Good." His eyes started to close. "Eli, stay with me." "Trying." The old woman said something to Neshoba. He translated, "Bullets out. He'll live if infection doesn't set in." "What can I do?" Laya asked. "Keep him awake. Keep him fighting." So she did. For 3 days and nights, she stayed by his side. When fever came, she bathed him with cool water. When he shook with chills, she held him. When he tried to give up, she wouldn't let him. "You promised me Montana," she whispered on the 3rd night. "You promised me a home. You don't get to break that promise." His eyes opened, clearer now. "Bossy," he rasped. She laughed, crying. "Yeah, better get used to it." He squeezed her hand. "Already am." On the 4th morning the fever broke. Color returned to his face. The old woman nodded, satisfied. Neshoba brought them food: venison stew, corn, fresh bread. Eli ate slowly, but he ate. "Thank you," Laya told Neshoba. "For everything." He nodded. "Eli saved my brother from hanging. White man's law wanted him for defending our land. Eli testified for him, risked everything." He looked at Eli. "Now we're even." We were always even, Eli said. Not in my eyes, but now yes. He glanced toward where Grady Kane was tied up guarded. What will you do with him? Take him to Fort Laramie, Laya said. Make him answer for what he's done. He'll try to kill you again. Let him try. Neshoba smiled. You chose well, McCrae. I know. They stayed one more day while Eli regained strength. Laya sat outside the lodge that evening watching the sunset. Neshoba joined her. You love him, he said, not a question. I do. He loves you too. I see it. How can you tell? The way he looks at you, like you're the only thing keeping him alive. He paused. Maybe you are. She didn't answer, just watched the sky turn gold, then red, then purple. Tomorrow they'd leave. Tomorrow they'd ride to the fort. Tomorrow she'd face Grady Kane in court and tell the world what he'd done. But tonight, she let herself breathe. Eli found her later, walking slowly but steady. Shouldn't be up, she said. Probably not. He sat beside her. They didn't speak, just sat there as stars appeared one by one. I meant it, he said finally. Montana, a home, all of it. I know. After this is over. It will be over, she said firmly. And then we go home. He took her hand, raised it to his lips, kissed her knuckles. Promise? He asked. She looked at him, at this man who'd given her everything, safety, trust, love. Promise, she said. The stars wheeled overhead. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the distance a wolf howled. And for the first time since her father died, Laya Burn believed in tomorrow. They left at dawn with Neshoba and 2 of his warriors as escort. Eli could ride now, though his shoulder was still bound tight and his face went gray whenever the horse jolted. Grady Kane rode between them, hands tied to the saddle horn, that smirk never quite leaving his face, even with a bullet wound in his leg. You're making a mistake, Kane said for the 10th time that morning. Nobody answered. They won't believe you. A preacher's daughter with a wild story against a decorated lawman. Laya kept her eyes on the road ahead. The journal sat inside her coat, pressed against her ribs. Every name, every transaction, every girl stolen and sold. Her father's blood had bought that information, and she wasn't letting it go to waste. I've got friends at that fort, Kane continued. Good friends. You think they'll side with you over me? Eli finally spoke. Shut your mouth, or I'll do it for you. Kane laughed. That's assault on an officer, McCrae. Add it to the list. List can get longer. Don't test me. They rode in silence after that, but Laya could feel Kane's eyes on her back. Calculating. Planning. He wasn't beaten yet, and they both knew it. Fort Laramie appeared on the 3rd day, sprawling wooden walls rising from the plains like a promise, or a threat. Laya couldn't decide which. Soldiers moved along the ramparts. Flags snapped in the wind. She'd never been inside a military fort before, never wanted to be. Last chance to turn back, Kane said quietly. Right away. I'll forget I ever saw you. No, you won't, Laya said. No, I won't. His smile widened, but it was worth a try. The gates opened. They rode through into chaos. Soldiers drilling, horses being shod, women washing clothes in big wooden tubs. The smell hit her immediately, leather, sweat, gunpowder, coffee. A sergeant approached, hand on his sidearm. State your business. Need to see the commanding officer, Eli said. Got a prisoner and evidence of a crime. The sergeant looked at Kane. His eyes widened. That's Deputy Kane. Was deputy, Eli corrected. Now he's a murderer and a trafficker. The sergeant's hand moved to his gun. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth, Laya said. She pulled out the journal. And I can prove it. The sergeant stared at her, then at the journal, Then at Kane, who just smiled. "Ma'am, I think you better come with me." They were taken to the commandant's office, a sparse room with maps on the walls and a desk covered in papers. Colonel Richard Ashford sat behind it, gray-haired and stern-faced. He looked at them like they were a problem he didn't want to solve. "Explain," he said. So Laya did. She told him about her father, about the trafficking ring, about the night Reverend Daniel Burn was murdered in his own church, about running, about the journal, about everything. Ashford listened without interrupting. When she finished, he held out his hand. "The journal." She hesitated. Eli nodded. She handed it over. Ashford opened it, started reading. His expression didn't change, but his knuckles went white where he gripped the pages. Finally, he looked up. "These are serious allegations." "They're facts," Laya said. "You have witnesses. My father's dead. The girls are scattered or dead too. But those names in that journal, they can be verified. The transactions, the dates, it's all there." Ashford looked at Kane. "What do you say to this?" Kane shrugged. "She's a traumatized girl who watched her father die. She's invented a story to make sense of it. I've been trying to help her, actually. Bring her in safe. Instead, she shoots at me and kidnaps me." "That's a lie," Laya said. "Is it? Where's your proof I was there that night?" "You killed him. I saw you." "In the dark from a choir loft could have been anyone." Ashford held up a hand. "Enough." He looked at the journal again. "Some of these names I recognize. Businessmen, politicians, even a judge." "That's why it needs to come out," Laya said. "That's why my father died, because powerful men wanted it buried." Or, Kane interjected, "because your father was disturbed, making accusations he couldn't prove. I tried to stop him peacefully, but he attacked me. It was self-defense." "You slit his throat from behind," Laya said, voice shaking. "That's not self-defense." "Prove it." She wanted to scream, wanted to hit him. But Eli's hand found hers under the table, steadying her. Ashford closed the journal. "I'll need time to investigate this. In the meantime, Deputy Kane, you're confined to quarters under guard." "Sir." "That's an order." He looked at Laya. "You'll stay on the fort as well, for your protection." "I don't need protection." "You do if half of what you say is true." He stood. "Sergeant Morris will show you to quarters. We'll convene a hearing in 3 days." 3 days felt like forever, but at least it was something. They were given a small cabin near the edge of the fort. 2 rooms, a stove, windows that actually closed. Luxury compared to the last week. Neshoba and his warriors left that evening, heading back to their village. "You'll be safe here," Neshoba told Eli. "But watch your back. Men with money have long reaches." "I know." "And McCrae," Neshoba gripped his shoulder. "She's strong, but she'll need you before this is over." "I'm not going anywhere." After Neshoba left, Laya stood at the window watching soldiers move through the twilight. Eli came up behind her, his good arm wrapping around her waist. "You okay?" he asked. "No, but I will be." 3 days. A lot can happen in 3 days. It can. He turned her to face him. "But we're together. That counts for something." She leaned into him, careful of his shoulder. "What if they don't believe me?" "They will." "How do you know?" "Because you're telling the truth. And truth has a way of coming out." She wanted to believe him, but she'd seen how the world worked. Truth didn't always win. Sometimes power did. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept seeing her father's face, kept hearing Grady Kane's voice, kept imagining the hearing going wrong. Around midnight she gave up and went outside. The fort was quiet, just guards on the walls, and the occasional horse nickering in the stables. "Can't sleep either." She jumped. Eli stood in the doorway, shirtless, bandage white against his skin. "You should be resting," she said. "So should you." He joined her on the steps. "What's on your mind?" "Everything. Nothing. I don't know." She wrapped her arms around herself. What if I've dragged you into something I can't win? Then we lose together. That's not comforting. Wasn't meant to be comforting. Was meant to be honest. He took her hand. I'm here. Win or lose. That's not changing. Why? She looked at him. Why do you have such faith in me? Because you have faith in yourself. Even when you're terrified, you keep moving forward. That's not something you can fake. A tear slipped down her cheek. He wiped it away with his thumb. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. Me too. You don't seem scared. I'm good at hiding it. He smiled slightly. Years of practice. She laughed despite herself. He pulled her close and they sat there in the cold, watching stars wheel overhead. The next morning a lieutenant came to their door. Young, nervous, with a message from Colonel Ashford. Ma'am, the colonel requests your presence. There's someone here who wants to speak with you. Who? A woman. She says she knew your father. Laya's heart jumped. She followed the lieutenant to the main building, Eli right behind her. Inside, a woman waited, maybe 40, worn-looking with haunted eyes. Miss Burn, the woman said. Yes. My name is Catherine Wells. She swallowed. I was one of them, one of the girls. The room went silent. What? Laya breathed. Your father helped me escape 3 years ago. He hid me, gave me money, helped me start over. Tears filled Catherine's eyes. When I heard what happened to him, I ran. I was too scared to come forward. But then I heard you were here, heard you were trying to finish what he started. You'll testify, Ashford asked. Yes, I'll tell them everything. Who bought me, who sold me, where they took us. She looked at Laya. Your father saved my life. The least I can do is help save his legacy. Laya couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. She just nodded. Catherine smiled. He talked about you, you know, all the time. He was so proud of you. That broke her. Laya covered her face, shoulders shaking. Eli's arm came around her. Thank you, he told Catherine. You don't know what this means. I think I do. Over the next 2 days, 3 more women came forward. All with similar stories. All willing to testify. Laya spent hours with them listening, taking notes, building the case. These were the girls her father died trying to save, and now they were going to save her. The night before the hearing, Laya and Eli sat in their cabin. She was going over her testimony for the 100th time, hands shaking. Stop, Eli said gently. I need to be ready. You are ready. You've been ready since the day you picked up that journal. What if I forget something? What if I say the wrong thing? Then you say the right thing next. He took the papers from her hands, set them aside. Look at me. She did. You are the bravest person I've ever met, he said. You watched your father die. You ran for your life. You married a stranger. You faced down men with guns. You survived things that would have broken most people. Tomorrow, you just tell the truth. That's all. Just tell the truth, she repeated. Just tell the truth. She leaned forward, kissed him. When she pulled back, his eyes were soft. After this is over, she said, I want to go home. Montana. Wherever you are, that's home. His throat worked. I love you, Laya Burn. It was the first time he'd said it out loud. The words hung in the air between them, precious and fragile. I love you too, she whispered. So much, it scares me. Good. I'd be worried if you weren't scared. They held each other that night, not talking, just being. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought, but tonight they had this. The hearing convened at 10 in the morning. The room was packed, soldiers, officers, civilians who'd heard rumors. Laya sat at a table with Colonel Ashford and a military prosecutor, a sharp-eyed captain named Morrison. Across from them sat Grady Kane and his lawyer, a slick man from Cheyenne named Blackwood. "This is a preliminary hearing," Ashford announced, "to determine if there's sufficient evidence to proceed with a court-martial. Deputy Kane, you're accused of murder conspiracy, human trafficking, and corruption. How do you plead?" "Not guilty," Kane said smoothly. "To all charges." "Miss Burn, you may present your case." Laya stood. Her legs shook, but her voice stayed steady. "On March 15, 1878, my father, Reverend Daniel Burn, was murdered in his church in Lawrence, Kansas. The man who killed him was Deputy Grady Kane." "Objection," Blackwood said. "Speculation. She has no proof." "I have his journal," Laya interrupted, "with every name, every transaction, every girl." She placed the journal on the table. Morrison opened it, began reading entries aloud. Names, dates, amounts of money. As he read, faces in the crowd went pale. Some men stood and left quickly. Others whispered urgently to each other. "This proves nothing," Blackwood said. "These could be fabrications." "Then explain this." Laya pulled out a receipt. $500 paid to Deputy Kane by Samuel Harding on April 2nd. Harding was arrested 2 weeks ago for running a brothel using underage girls. The date matches an entry in my father's journal. Murmurs swept the room. Kane's face stayed blank, but his eyes flickered. Morrison stood. "We'd like to call our first witness, Catherine Wells." Catherine took the stand, told her story, named names, pointed at Kane. "He was there," she said. "The night I was sold. He collected payment from the buyer. I saw him." "She's lying," Kane said. "I've never seen this woman." "Then how do I know about the scar on your left hand?" Catherine asked. "The one shaped like a horseshoe. You grabbed my arm, I remember." Kane's lawyer jumped up. "This is hearsay." "It's testimony," Morrison said coldly. "And there are 3 more witnesses outside ready to say the same thing." The hearing went on for hours. Witness after witness. Evidence piled up like stones. Kane's lawyer tried to poke holes, but the wall was too solid. By late afternoon, even Ashford looked convinced. Finally, he held up a hand. "I've heard enough. Deputy Kane, you're hereby remanded to custody pending a full court-martial. Trial date to be set within the month." "This is ridiculous," Kane started. "One more word, and I'll add contempt to your charges." Ashford looked at Laya. "Miss Burn, on behalf of the United States Army, I apologize. Your father was a hero, and so are you." She couldn't speak, could barely breathe. It was over. They'd believed her. As guards led Kane away, he looked back at her. That smile was gone now, just cold hatred. "This isn't finished," he said quietly. "Yes, it is," she replied. Outside, Eli waited. When he saw her face, he knew. "We won," he asked. "We won." He grabbed her, lifted her off the ground, despite his shoulder, and spun her around. She laughed, really laughed for the first time in months. That night, the fort threw a celebration. Someone broke out whiskey. A fiddle appeared. People danced and sang. Laya stood on the edges, watching, still not quite believing it was real. "You did it," Eli said, handing her a cup. "We did it." "No, this was you. All you." She sipped the whiskey, felt it burn down her throat. "What happens now?" Now we go home. Montana. Montana." He held out his hand. "Dance with me." "I don't know how." "Neither do I. We'll figure it out." They moved clumsily to the music, stepping on each other's feet, laughing. Around them, people clapped and cheered. For a moment, surrounded by light and music and life, Laya felt something she'd almost forgotten. Joy. But in the shadows at the edge of the fort, a figure watched. One of Kane's men who'd escaped capture. He saw Laya dancing, saw her happiness, and he smiled. The boss would pay good money for this information. The girl thought she was safe, thought she'd won. She was wrong. The next morning, Laya and Eli prepared to leave. They'd said their goodbyes, packed their supplies, saddled their horses. Colonel Ashford gave them an escort, 4 soldiers, to see them safely to the Montana border. "Can't be too careful," he said. "Kane had friends. They might not take kindly to what happened here." "We'll be fine," Eli said. But he checked his guns anyway. They rode out under clear skies, the fort shrinking behind them. Laya kept looking back, expecting something to go wrong, but the road stayed empty. The horizon stayed clear. "Relax," Eli said. "It's over." "Is it?" "The trial's set. Kane's in custody. Those girls are safe. Yeah. It's over." She wanted to believe him, but something felt wrong, like the calm before a storm. They camped that night beside a stream. The soldiers set up a perimeter. Fire crackled. Coffee boiled. Everything seemed peaceful. Laya woke to gunfire. She grabbed her gun, rolled out of her bedroll. Eli was already up, rifle in hand. The soldiers were shooting at something in the dark. "What's happening?" she yelled. "Riders!" One soldier shouted. "At least a dozen!" Bullets tore through the camp. One soldier went down, then another. Eli grabbed Laya, pulled her behind a fallen log. "Stay down." "Who are they?" "Kane's men. Has to be." More gunfire. The remaining soldiers returned fire, but they were outnumbered. One by one they fell. Then silence. Laya's heart hammered. Eli held his rifle ready. They waited. Footsteps approached. A voice called out, familiar, mocking. Come out, Miss Burn. Let's finish this." She knew that voice. Knew it from the trading post. "Jake." "Your boss is in custody," Eli shouted. "This won't change anything." "Don't care about Kane," Jake replied. "Care about the bounty. $500, remember? That's still good." "The bounty's void," Laya yelled. "The charges were false." "Don't care about that either. See, some of us got paid to make sure you never made it to that trial. But you did. Now we don't get our money. So we're taking what we can get." Eli looked at Laya. "When I say run, you run. Understand? I'm not leaving you." "Laya." "No." "Stubborn woman," he muttered. But there was pride in his voice. 10 seconds, Jake called. "Then we come in, shooting." Eli counted in his head. At 8, he kissed Laya hard. At 9, he whispered, "I love you." At 10, he stood and fired. Jake went down. His men charged. Eli shot 2 more before his rifle emptied. He drew his revolver. Laya fired beside him, her hands steady now. Fear burned away by anger. They fought back to back. Bullets flew. Men screamed. The world narrowed to muzzle flash and gun smoke and blood. Then Eli's gun clicked empty. A man rushed him. They grappled. Eli's shoulder tore open, blood soaking through. He went down hard. "Eli!" Laya screamed. The man raised his gun, pointed it at Eli's head. Laya fired. The man dropped. She ran to Eli, pulled him up. His face was white, blood everywhere. "Can you ride?" she gasped. "Have to." They reached the horses. Climbed on. Rode hard into the darkness with bullets chasing them. Behind them, Jake's surviving men regrouped. Argued whether to follow. Finally decided it wasn't worth it. The girl was gone. The money was gone. Better to cut their losses. Laya and Eli rode until dawn, only stopping when the horses could go no further. They collapsed in a dry wash, both bleeding, both exhausted. "That was close," Eli rasped. "Too close." She pressed her hands against his shoulder, trying to stop the bleeding. "Damn it, Eli, you're not dying on me now." "Not planning to," he coughed. "But I could use a doctor." "I'll find one. Just hold on." She tore strips from her shirt, bound his wounds tight. His breathing was shallow but steady. He'd live. They both would. Montana. he whispered. Montana? She agreed. Soon as you can ride. Give me 5 minutes. She laughed, crying. Take all the time you need. The sun rose red and violent. They'd survived another night, another fight. And somewhere ahead, past mountains and rivers, and all the miles between, Montana waited. Home waited. They just had to get there. Eli lasted another hour before he passed out. Laya felt his weight go slack behind her on the horse, and her heart stopped. She pulled the reins hard, nearly falling, as she tried to ease him down. His face was gray lips, colorless. The bandages she'd tied already soaked through with blood. No, 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 she whispered, pressing her fingers to his neck. The pulse was there, faint, but steady. Don't you do this to me, Eli McCrae. Not now. She looked around desperately, nothing but empty plains stretching in every direction. No town, no homestead, no help. The sun climbed higher, already burning hot, despite the November chill. They needed shelter, water, medicine. She needed a miracle. Instead, she got a dust cloud on the horizon. Her hand went to her gun. 3 bullets left. If this was more of Jake's men, she'd go down fighting. But as the cloud drew closer, she made out a single wagon pulled by 2 horses. An old man drove it, hunched and weathered, with a woman beside him. Laya stepped into the road, gun raised. That's far enough. The wagon stopped. The old man squinted at her, then at Eli, slumped on the ground. Put that gun down, girl. We ain't here to hurt nobody. How do I know that? Because if we wanted you dead, I'd have shot you already. He gestured to the rifle across his lap. I'm August Perry. This is my wife, Ruth. We got a homestead 5 miles east. Heard shooting last night. Figured we'd see if anyone needed help. Laya's arm shook. She wanted to believe him. Needed to. But trust had nearly gotten her killed too many times. Ruth climbed down from the wagon, slow and careful. She was maybe 60, with kind eyes and steady hands. Your husband? She asked, nodding at Eli. Yes. He's dying. You know that, right? Laya's throat closed. I know. Then put the gun down and let us help. Something in Ruth's voice broke through. Laya lowered the weapon. Ruth moved past her, knelt beside Eli, checked his wounds with practiced efficiency. Bullet tore through the shoulder, reopened an old injury. He's lost a lot of blood. She looked up. But I've seen worse. If we can get him stable, he'll make it. You're a doctor. Was a nurse. Army hospital during the war. Saw plenty of wounds like this. She gestured to August. Help me get him in the wagon. They lifted Eli as gently as possible, but he still groaned, eyes fluttering. Laya climbed in beside him, cradling his head in her lap, while Ruth worked cleaning and rebandaging the wounds with supplies from a medical kit. You got people chasing you? August asked as he drove. Had. I don't know if they're still coming. They come, they'll regret it. My sons live nearby. Good boys, good shots. He glanced back. What did you do to get folks so riled up? Told the truth. August grunted. That'll do it. The homestead was small but solid, cabin barn corral with a few horses. 2 younger men came out as the wagon approached, both armed. August waved them down. It's all right. They need help. They carried Eli inside, laid him on a bed. Ruth shooed everyone out except Laya. You know how to follow instructions? Ruth asked. Yes, ma'am. Good. Then do what I say when I say it, and don't argue. For the next 3 hours, Ruth worked. She cleaned the wounds, again, stitched what needed stitching, applied poultices that smelled like sage and something bitter. Laya held Eli's hand the whole time, whispering to him, even though he couldn't hear. You promised me Montana. You promised me a home. You don't get to break your promises, Eli. You don't get to leave me alone. His hand twitched in hers. Maybe he heard. Maybe he was just dreaming. Either way, she held on. When Ruth finally stepped back, wiping blood from her hands, exhaustion lined her face. That's all I can do. Rest is up to him. Will he make it? Depends. Fever comes, it could kill him. Infection sets in, same thing. But he's strong. I can see that. And he's got something to live for. She looked at Laya. You. Laya's eyes burned. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Next few days will tell. Ruth touched her shoulder. You should rest too. You look half dead yourself. I need to stay with him. Then rest here. But rest. Ruth left. Laya pulled a chair close to the bed, never letting go of Eli's hand. Outside, she could hear the Perry family moving around, their voices low. Normal life continuing while hers hung in balance. Night fell. Eli's breathing stayed shallow but steady. No fever yet. That was good. Laya let herself close her eyes just for a moment. She woke to someone shaking her shoulder. August stood there, rifle in hand, face grim. We got company. Her blood iced. How many? 3 riders, watching the house. Been out there an hour. They say what they want. Don't need to. I know what men like that want. He handed her a revolver. Loaded. 6 shots. Make them count. She took it hands steady despite the fear clawing up her throat. Your family is used to trouble. This is Wyoming. Trouble's part of the territory. He moved to the window. They make a move, we'll be ready. Laya checked on Eli. Still unconscious, still breathing. She kissed his forehead, whispered, I'll keep you safe. Then followed August outside. The 3 riders sat their horses just beyond rifle range, silhouettes against the stars. Watching. Waiting. August's sons flanked the house rifles ready. Ruth stood in the doorway with a shotgun that looked older than she was. They want you to run, August said quietly. Panic. Make a mistake. I won't. Good. Because running just gets you killed slower. They waited. An hour passed. Then 2. The riders didn't move, didn't speak. Just watched. Finally, as dawn approached, they turned and rode away. August lowered his rifle. They'll be back, but not today. Why not? Because they're not sure how many of us there are. Not sure if it's worth it. He looked at her. But they'll figure it out eventually. When they do, we'll have a fight. I can't ask you to risk your family for me. You didn't ask. We chose. He smiled slightly. Besides, Ruth would skin me alive if I turned away someone in need. Woman's got a heart bigger than the territory. Laya's throat tightened. I don't know how to repay you. Don't need repayment. Just need you to survive. That'll be enough. She went back inside. Eli was stirring, eyes moving beneath closed lids. She took his hand again. We're safe, she whispered. For now. Just keep fighting, Eli. Please keep fighting. His fingers squeezed hers. Faint, but deliberate. He was still in there. Still fighting. The next 2 days blurred together. Laya stayed by Eli's side, leaving only when Ruth forced her to eat or sleep. The fever came on the second night, hard and vicious. Eli thrashed, mumbling names she didn't recognize, reliving battles she couldn't see. Anna, he gasped. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Shh, Laya whispered, bathing his face with cool water. It's okay. You're okay. Couldn't save her. Couldn't save the baby. That wasn't your fault. My fault. All my fault. She climbed into the bed beside him, held him as he shook. Listen to me, Eli. You saved me. You gave me a home. You taught me what love means. Whatever happened before, it doesn't change that. You hear me? It doesn't change us. He quieted slowly, his breathing evening out. The fever broke just before dawn. When his eyes finally opened, they were clear. Laya, She almost sobbed. I'm here. Where? Safe. We're safe. She touched his face. You scared me. Sorry. His voice was rough as gravel. Didn't mean to. Do it again and I'll kill you myself. He smiled weakly. Yes, ma'am. Ruth checked him over, pronounced him out of danger, and declared Laya could finally get proper rest. But Laya refused to leave. She curled up beside Eli on the narrow bed, his good arm around her, and let herself breathe. Tell me about Montana, she said softly. Why? Because I need to remember we're going somewhere, that this isn't forever. He was quiet a moment. Then, mountains so high they scrape the sky, rivers so clear you can see straight to the bottom, land that goes on forever untouched, wild. He paused. And a cabin, just for us, where nobody can find us, where we can just be. Just be, she repeated. I like that. Me too. They lay there in the dim light, listening to each other breathe. Outside, the world was still dangerous. Men still hunted them. The future was still uncertain. But in that moment, they had peace. Eli healed slowly. By the 4th day, he could sit up. By the 6th, he could walk, though Ruth forbade anything more strenuous. By the 8th, he was pacing the cabin like a caged animal. I need to move, he told Laya. Need to do something. You need to heal. I'm fine. You're stubborn. Look who's talking. She smiled despite herself. Having him back, really back, felt like a gift she didn't deserve. That afternoon, August came in looking serious. Those riders came back, brought friends. I count 8 now, maybe more. Eli stood immediately. We need to leave. You can't ride yet, Ruth protested. I can. I have to. He looked at August. We've brought you enough trouble. Trouble was here before you, will be here after. That's life. But August didn't argue further. You got a plan. Get to Montana, disappear. Long ride in your condition. I'll make it. Laya stepped forward. We'll make it. August studied them both, then nodded. All right, but you leave tonight. In the dark. I'll have my boys create a distraction, draw those riders west. You head north. By the time they figure it out, you'll have a day's head start. Why are you doing this? Laya asked. Because 30 years ago someone helped me when I needed it. Time to pass it along. He gripped Eli's good shoulder. You take care of her, McCrae. With my life. Good enough. They prepared quickly. Ruth packed food, medicine, extra bandages. August's sons readied horses, checked weapons, filled canteens. As night fell, everyone gathered in the cabin one last time. You ever make it to Montana, Ruth said, you come back and visit. Let us know you made it. We will, Laya promised. And thank you for everything. Ruth pulled her into a hug. You're a strong woman. Don't forget that. I won't. At midnight, they rode out, moving slowly through the dark. Behind them, gunfire erupted as August's sons drew the riders away. Laya's heart hammered, but she kept moving forward. They'll be okay, she asked Eli. They know this land. Those riders don't. Yeah, they'll be okay. They rode through the night and into the next day, stopping only to rest the horses. Eli's face stayed tight with pain, but he never complained. Just kept riding. On the 3rd day, they crossed into Montana territory. We made it, Laya whispered. Not yet. Still got miles to go. But something in the air felt different. Cleaner, like possibility. They found a valley 2 days later, tucked between mountains, with a river running through it. No other homesteads, no roads, just wilderness. Here, Eli said. This is it. You're sure? I'm sure. They made camp that night beside the river. Laya caught fish while Eli gathered wood for a fire. They ate in silence, watching stars emerge one by one. What do we do now? Laya asked. We build, plant, live. He looked at her. We become boring. She laughed. I could use boring. Me too. They spent the next weeks building a cabin. It was rough work. Eli's shoulder limited what he could do, so Laya learned to swing an axe notch, logs think like a carpenter. They worked dawn to dusk, collapsing exhausted each night. But slowly the cabin took shape. 4 walls, a roof, a door that closed, windows that let in light. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. The first night they slept inside, Laya lay awake listening to the wind through the trees, the river running past the night sounds of their new home. You okay? Eli asked in the darkness. Yeah, just thinking. About how far we've come, everything that happened, how many times we almost died. Regrets? None. She rolled to face him. You? Only one. Her heart sank. What? That I didn't kiss you sooner. She hit his chest lightly. Idiot. He caught her hand, brought it to his lips. You're idiot. Yeah, mine. They made love that night slow and careful because of his healing shoulder, but no less intense for it. Afterward, lying tangled together, Laya felt something shift inside her, like a door closing on the past and another opening on the future. I want to plant a garden, she said. In the spring. Vegetables. Maybe some flowers. Flowers. My mother loved flowers before she died. Then we'll plant flowers. And I want chickens, and maybe a cow. Anything else? She hesitated. A family. Someday, if you want. His arm tightened around her. I want. Even after losing? Especially after losing. He kissed her temple. Life keeps going, Laya. Even after grief. Especially after grief. She pressed closer, breathing in his scent, wood smoke and leather and earth. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. Winter came hard and fast. Snow piled up outside their door. Some days they couldn't leave the cabin at all. But they didn't mind. They had firewood, had food, had each other. Eli taught her to shoot better, to trap, to read weather in the sky. Laya taught him to cook more than beans, to mend clothes properly, to be patient. And slowly, without realizing it, they healed. One night in January, Laya was reading her father's Bible, the one she'd carried all this way, when she found a letter tucked inside. Her father's handwriting. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. My dearest Laya, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I knew the risks when I started this fight, and I don't regret them. Some things are worth dying for. Justice is one. You are the other. I want you to know that everything I did because I believe the world can be better, and I believe you'll help make it better. Don't let my death stop you from living. Don't let fear win. Find love. Find peace. Find joy. That's the best revenge against evil, to live well despite it. I'm proud of you, my girl. I always have been. Love, Father. Tears streamed down her face. Eli looked up from the fire, saw her crying, and came over immediately. What's wrong? She handed him the letter. He read it, expression softening. He knew, she whispered. He knew they'd kill him, and he did it anyway. Because he loved you, and he loved those girls. That's what love does, it makes us brave. I'm not brave. Yes, you are. You're the bravest person I know. She leaned into him. Let him hold her, while she cried for her father, for the girls they'd saved, for everything they'd lost, and everything they'd gained. When the tears finally stopped, she felt lighter, like she'd been carrying a weight and finally set it down. Thank you, she said. For what? For giving me a reason to keep living. You gave me the same thing. They sat by the fire until it burned down to embers, then climbed into bed and held each other against the cold. Spring came, slowly melting snow, revealing brown earth and the promise of green. They planted the garden together, vegetables and wildflowers mixed together, because Laya said beauty and utility should coexist. Philosophical gardening, Eli teased. The best kind. They got chickens from a trader passing through, then a cow. The cabin filled with life and noise and purpose. One evening in April, Laya was washing dishes when she felt it a flutter deep in her belly. She froze, hand pressed to her stomach. Eli! He looked up from the table where he was cleaning his rifle. Yeah. I think... She swallowed. I think I'm pregnant. The cloth fell from his hands. He stared at her. You're sure? Not completely, but I'm late, and I've been sick in the mornings, and just now I felt... She pressed harder. Movement. He crossed the room in 3 strides, dropped to his knees in front of her, put his hands over hers on her stomach. A baby, he breathed. Are you happy? He looked up at her eyes shining. I'm terrified, and thrilled, and grateful, and 100 other things I don't have words for. She laughed, crying again, but this time from joy. Me too. He stood, pulled her close, kissed her like she was precious and fragile and strong all at once. We're going to be okay, he whispered against her hair. I know. All of us. I know. And she did know. Despite everything they'd survived, everything they'd lost, everything still uncertain about the future, she knew they'd be okay. Because they had each other. And that was enough. The baby came in November, a girl with dark hair and her father's eyes. They named her Hope. When Laya held her for the first time, exhausted and overwhelmed, and more in love than she thought possible, she looked at Eli and saw tears on his face. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For trusting me. For staying. For giving me this. You gave me the same. He leaned down, kissed her forehead, then the baby's. We should write to the Perrys, Laya said. Let them know we made it. We will. And to Neshoba, and Colonel Ashford. Everyone who helped us. Tell them we're boring now. Eli smiled. The best kind of boring. Outside, snow began to fall. Inside, the fire crackled. The baby slept. And 2 people who'd found each other in darkness held on tight to the light they'd built together. It wasn't the ending Laya had imagined when she fled Kansas all those months ago. It was better. Hope was 6 months old when the letter arrived. Laya was hanging laundry when she saw the rider approaching a young man on a tired horse carrying a mail satchel. They were so far from civilization that mail was rare, precious as gold. She called for Eli, who came out of the barn with an axe still in his hand. The rider tipped his hat. McCrae place? That's us, Eli said. Got a letter. From Fort Laramie. Laya's stomach dropped. Fort Laramie meant the past catching up, meant Grady Kane, meant everything they'd tried to leave behind. Eli took the envelope, paid the rider, and waited until he'd gone before opening it. His eyes scanned the page, expression unreadable. Finally, he looked up. Kane's dead. Laya's knees went weak. What? Hanged 3 weeks ago. Court-martial found him guilty on all charges. They executed him at dawn. Eli kept reading. Says here they arrested 14 more men connected to the trafficking ring. Shut down operations in 4 territories. They're calling it the biggest bust in frontier justice history. My father's journal did that. You did that. He pulled her close. Your courage did that. She should have felt relief. Victory. Something. Instead, she just felt tired. Is it really over? Yeah. It's really over. She pressed her face against his chest, breathing him in. Good. Because I don't want to fight anymore. I just want to live. Then that's what we'll do. Hope cried from inside the cabin. Laya pulled away, smiled, went to tend to their daughter. Eli watched her go, then looked at the letter again. At the bottom was a handwritten note from Colonel Ashford. Your wife is a hero. The Army owes her a debt we can never repay. If you ever need anything, you have only to ask. Eli folded the letter carefully, put it in his pocket. Heroes were made of different stuff than most people thought. Not grand gestures or fearless charges. just ordinary people who refused to look away when evil showed its face. Laya had done that, and she'd paid the price in scars most people couldn't see. But she'd survived. They both had. And that was its own kind of victory. Summer came and turned the valley green. They worked the land, tended the garden, raised their daughter. Life settled into rhythms that felt almost normal. Wake at dawn. Work until dusk. Fall into bed exhausted and content. Some days, Laya thought about her father. About Catherine Wells and the other women who'd testified. About all the girls they'd saved by refusing to stay silent. On those days, the weight felt bearable, meaningful. Other days, she thought about the girls they hadn't saved. The ones who'd died before anyone knew their names. On those days, the weight crushed her. You can't carry them all, Eli told her one night when he found her crying on the porch. Someone has to remember them. You do. And that's enough. You can't save everyone, Laya. You can only save who you can save. It doesn't feel like enough. I know. But it has to be. She leaned against him, watching stars appear one by one. Hope slept inside, safe and warm and innocent. That was what they'd fought for. Not glory, not revenge. Just the chance for children to grow up safe. Tell me we did the right thing, she whispered. We did the right thing. Even though people died. Especially because people died. Their deaths meant something. They stopped something evil. That matters. She wanted to believe him. Most days she did. But grief had its own timeline, and healing wasn't linear. Some wounds never fully closed. You just learned to live with them. Fall arrived with cold winds and the first snow. Eli took to making furniture in the barn when the weather was too rough for outside work. Chairs, tables, a cradle for Hope, though she was getting too big for it. His hands were good at making things, building things, creating beauty from raw wood. You should sell these, Laya said, running her hand over a rocking chair he'd finished. To who were miles from anywhere. That trader comes through once a month. He could take them to town, sell them there. Eli considered. You think people would buy them? They're beautiful. Of course they would. So he made a deal with the trader, a grizzled man named Simmons who asked no questions and told fewer stories. Within 3 months, orders were coming in. People wanted McCrae furniture. It was solid, well-made, built to last. You're becoming respectable, Laya teased. God forbid. Too late, you're a businessman now. He grabbed her around the waist, pulled her close, despite her laughing protests. I'm a rancher who happens to make furniture. Semantics. Important semantics. Hope toddled over, demanding attention. Eli scooped her up, tossed her in the air. Her squeals filled the cabin. Laya watched them together and felt her heart expand. This was what happiness looked like. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and earned and precious. Winter was hard that year. Snow piled higher than the windows. They burned through firewood faster than expected. Supplies ran low. For 3 weeks they were completely snowed in, no way out, and no way for anyone to get in. We'll be okay, Eli said, though Laya could see worry in his eyes. We've got enough food, enough wood. What if we don't? We will. He was right, barely. By the time the snow melted enough for them to dig out, they were down to dried beans and the last of the flour. But they'd survived. Next year we store more, Laya said. Double what we think we'll need. Agreed. They learned from every season, every mistake, every close call. That was frontier life, constant adjustment, constant vigilance. But also constant growth. Spring brought surprises. The trader arrived with news. August Perry had died peacefully in his sleep. Ruth was staying with one of her sons. She'd sent a package for Laya. Inside was a letter and a small wooden box. Laya opened the letter first, eyes filling as she read Ruth's careful handwriting. August talked about you both often. Said you reminded him of us when we were young, brave, stubborn, in love. He wanted you to have this. The box contained a gold wedding ring worn smooth with time and a small photograph of August and Ruth on their wedding day. They looked impossibly young, fierce, and hopeful all at once. We should visit her, Laya said. We will, when Hope's older, when travel's easier. Promise? Promise. That summer they hired a drifter named Sam to help with the heavy work. He was young, maybe 20, running from something he wouldn't talk about. Eli paid him fair wages, asked no questions, and slowly the boy opened up. His family had died in a fever outbreak. He'd been wandering ever since. You got people? Sam asked one night over dinner. We've got each other, Eli said. That's enough. Must be nice, having someone. Laya looked at him, saw the loneliness. You're welcome to stay, long as you need. I don't want to impose. You're not. We could use the help. Sam stayed through fall, worked hard, laughed easy, played with Hope like she was his own sister. When winter came, he asked if he could stay permanent. Got nowhere else to go, he admitted. And this feels like home. Then it's home, Eli said. Welcome to the family. They built Sam his own small cabin near theirs. He became part of their lives, part of their story. Another person who'd found sanctuary in that valley. Hope grew fast. By 2 years old, she was talking in full sentences, asking questions about everything. Why is the sky blue? Where do the stars go in the day? Why doesn't the river freeze all the way through? Laya answered what she could, made up the rest. Eli taught Hope to ride before she could properly walk. She'd sit in front of him on the saddle, fearless, laughing at the wind in her face. She's going to be trouble, Laya said, watching them. Good. World needs more trouble like her. What does that mean? Means she's got her mother's courage, her father's stubbornness. She'll be unstoppable. Terrifying thought. Best kind. When Hope was 3, Laya realized she was pregnant again. This time without the fear that had shadowed her first pregnancy. This time with only joy. Another one, Eli said when she told him. Another one. He picked her up, spun her around. We're going to need a bigger cabin. We'll manage. We always do. The baby came in spring, a boy they named Daniel after Laya's father. He had his mother's dark hair and a cry that could wake the dead. Hope immediately appointed herself his protector, watching over him with fierce devotion. That's my brother, she'd tell anyone who'd listen. I'm keeping him safe. Laya watched her children together and thought about her father, about how he'd fought for children he'd never met, about how love multiplied, spread, became something larger than any one person. He'd be proud of you, Eli said, reading her thoughts. I hope so. I know so. Years passed. Hope turned 5, then 7, then 10. Daniel grew from baby to toddler to boy. Sam married a widow from the neighboring valley, brought her home. They had kids of their own. The community grew slowly, carefully made up of people who'd come to Montana looking for second chances. Laya and Eli aged together. Gray appeared in his hairlines, deepened around her eyes. His shoulder ached on cold days. Her back hurt from years of hard work. But they were alive, together, still in love. One evening, when Hope was 12 and Daniel was 9, they sat around the dinner table, family and friends crowded in, talking and laughing. Laya looked around at all these lives, intersecting all these people who'd found each other, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. You okay? Eli asked quietly. More than okay. What are you thinking about? How far we've come. How different this is from where we started. He took her hand under the table. Regrets? Not a single one. Me neither. After dinner, After everyone had gone home and the kids were asleep, they walked down to the river. The same river that had been there when they first arrived all those years ago. Constant. Reliable. Like their love. "Remember when you said you didn't know how to be a wife?" Eli asked. "I remember." "You figured it out." "Did I?" "Yeah. Turns out being a wife just means showing up, every day, through everything. You did that. So did you." They stood in silence, listening to water running over stones, wind through trees, all the night sounds that had become home. "I love you," Laya said. Not a declaration, just a fact, simple and true as water running downhill. "I love you too." They walked back to the cabin hand in hand. Inside, their children slept safe. Outside, the valley held them close. Above, stars wheeled through the darkness like they'd been doing since the world began and would keep doing long after everyone was gone. But right now, in this moment, they were alive. They were together. And that was everything. 15 years after they'd built that cabin, a young woman arrived at their door. She was thin, scared, running from something. Laya took one look at her and knew. "Come in," she said. "You're safe here." The woman Sarah told her story haltingly, fleeing an arranged marriage, men chasing her, nowhere to go. Laya listened, remembered being that frightened girl, remembered Eli offering her a name that wasn't hers. "You can stay," Laya said, "long as you need. I don't have money. Don't need money. Just need to be willing to work, to be part of something." Sarah stayed. Then others came. Word spread somehow that the McCrae place was sanctuary for people with nowhere else to go. They never turned anyone away. The valley filled with second chances. Hope grew into a woman who looked like her mother, but had her father's steady calm. Daniel became a man who protected fiercely and loved deeply. They both married, had children of their own. The family tree grew roots, spread branches. Eli's hair turned white. His hands grew stiff with arthritis. But he still made furniture. In the barn still worked. The land still held Laya every night, like she was the most precious thing in the world. Laya's body wore down from years of hard living. Her joints ached, her eyesight dimmed, but her spirit stayed fierce. She still took in strays, still fought for people who couldn't fight for themselves, still believed the world could be better. On their 30th wedding anniversary, their children threw them a celebration. Everyone in the valley came. There was music and dancing and more food than they could possibly eat. When someone asked Eli to make a speech, he stood reluctantly. "I'm not good with words," he started. "Never have been. But I'll say this. 30 years ago, I married a woman I barely knew. Best decision I ever made. She taught me what courage looks like, what love means, how to live instead of just survive." He looked at Laya. "Still teaching me, every day." The crowd cheered. Laya stood, kissed him, whispered, "Right back at you." They danced that night under the stars, moving slowly because their bodies couldn't move fast anymore, but moving together, always together. "We did good, didn't we?" Laya said. "We did real good. No regrets. Only that we didn't have more time. We've got time. Not enough. Never enough." She pulled back, looked at him. "Then we make the most of what we have. Deal." Years continued. Eli's health declined first. His heart gave out slowly, piece by piece. He fought it stubbornly, refusing to give in until one morning he couldn't get out of bed. "This is it," he told Laya. "Don't say that." "It's okay. I'm ready." "I'm not," he smiled. "You're the strongest person I know. You'll be fine." "I don't want to be fine. I want you. You'll always have me." He touched her face. "Every sunset, every star, every breath of wind, I'll be there." He died that afternoon with his hand in hers, surrounded by family looking at the woman he'd loved for 37 years. Laya didn't cry at first. She sat beside him, holding his cooling hand, memorizing his face one last time. Then Hope touched her shoulder and the dam broke. She sobbed like something inside her had shattered. "It's not fair," she gasped. "We were supposed to have more time." "You had a lifetime," Hope said gently. "More than most people ever get." They buried him on the hill overlooking the valley with a simple marker that said, "Eli McCrae, husband, father, good man." Laya visited every day, talking to him about the weather, the kids, everything and nothing. "Miss you," she'd say, "every damn day." The wind would answer, rustling through grass, and she'd imagine it was him saying he missed her too. She lived another 3 years, long enough to see Daniel's youngest daughter born, long enough to finish writing down their story so no one would forget, long enough to make peace with death. When her time came, she wasn't afraid. Hope sat beside her, holding her hand the way Laya had held Eli's. "Tell me about Montana," Hope said softly, echoing the words Laya had said to Eli so many times. Laya smiled. "Mountains that touch the sky. Rivers so clear you can see tomorrow. Land that goes on forever." She paused. "And your father, waiting for me." "You think he is?" "I know he is." She closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed, stopped. Hope cried. But through the tears, she smiled. Because her parents had found each other against impossible odds, had built something beautiful from ashes, had loved so fiercely that the valley still echoed with it. They buried Laya beside Eli on that hill. The whole valley came to pay respects. Stories were told. Tears were shed. Life continued. But on quiet nights, when the wind blew just right, people swore they could hear 2 voices laughing, could see 2 figures walking hand in hand through the grass, could feel the weight of a love so strong it refused to die. The cabin still stands. Their descendants still work the land. The story still gets told of a preacher's daughter who ran for her life and a widowed rancher who gave her sanctuary, of how they survived when survival seemed impossible, of how they loved when the world said love wasn't enough. But it was enough, more than enough. Because love doesn't die. It transforms, spreads, becomes something larger than any 2 people. It becomes legend, becomes truth, becomes the thing we tell ourselves when we need to remember that hope survives even in the darkest places. Laya and Eli McCrae proved that. And their story, written in blood and tears and unbreakable devotion, will be told as long as people believe in second chances, in redemption, in the stubborn refusal to give up on each other, even when the world gives every reason to do so. That's the kind of love that lasts. That's the kind of story that matters. That's the kind of truth worth dying for and living for and fighting for until your last breath and beyond. And in that Montana valley, where mountains touch the sky and rivers run clear, their love still lives, not as memory, but as promise that broken people can heal, that strangers can become family, and that sometimes the greatest act of courage is simply choosing to stay.